Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unlock Show. I'm Tracy Wilson. I'm going to be your host for the next probably about 45 minutes or so, because I have got a guest today that I know you guys are just not going to want to, you're not going to want to stop listening to him, because he's got some amazing stories that I want to make sure that we unlock, and we share all of those today. So welcome to The Unlock Show. Dave Rotheroe is here with me today. He is the owner and founder of Grip Advertising. And I want to say thank you very much for joining us today, Dave, because it's like 12 a.m. or p.m., midnight anyway, in Bristol, the UK, where Dave is right now. And, it's early morning for me here, well, mid-morning here for me in the Gold Coast of Australia, which is 10 a.m. So I'm so pleased that I was able to twist his arm and convince him that, staying up to jump on a show, to talk with me and all you awesome people was the thing to do. He doesn't need sleep. He needs to be on the show, sharing with everybody how to create high-ticket generating ad campaigns. And guys, like I said, if you are anybody who is online right now who is wanting to sell your stuff, that you are selling anything online, honestly, you need to listen up to what Dave is talking about today, because he's going to tell you this crazy story about how he sold $500,000 worth of grilled cheese sandwiches. And you guys are probably right now going, what the heck? How did that happen? How did he do it? Well, I'm going to get him to share all of the ins and outs of how he actually did that, and how he makes videos go viral and sell thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of product. So without further ado, hey Dave, welcome to the show. Like I said, it's awesome to have you here, and thank you so much for, staying up to the wee hours of the morning to have a chat with us on the Unlock Show.
Absolute pleasure. Good to be here, and absolutely worth staying up for. So excited to get going.
Yeah, let's do this. So right now we are streaming live on multiple different places, but I want to say welcome to everybody that's from the Success Secrets for Business, Family and Life group on Facebook. So this show streams twice a week live, and the place to be is inside of the Success Secrets for Business, Family and Life group on Facebook, because that's where we share everything that will help you thrive in your business, your family, and your life. So let's get stuck into this, Dave. Let's kind of wind the clock back. And it is now 2015. And tell us what happened way back in 2015.
Way back in 2015. Well, funny enough, actually, it was so I actually prefacing this. I used to be a punk rock musician. I used to tour all over the world playing violin with a punk band, and I kind of decided one day that was never going to get me rich. So I started working in office jobs, and found pretty fast that was not anywhere near as exciting as, well, I don't think anyone ever expected it to be exciting. But I actually, funnily enough, found myself not too far from you, Tracy. We were just discussing before we got on this call that I was in Malulabar, and I found myself sat on a beach with an empty bottle of whiskey in one hand and an empty pack of cigarettes in the other hand. And it was the ultimate lowest low moment. Even I found that even though I was traveling the world and doing all these incredible things, working for a roller coaster company actually, that still I wasn't satisfied. There was something that was lacking in my life. So after a very strong, hard conversation with myself and some decisions made, I decided that I was going to start a business. I was going to kick the booze, I was going to kick the cigarettes, and start a business. So I dove in with no idea what I was doing whatsoever, absolutely no idea, and just kind of went on a whim, a bit of an idea that I'd had, and a few conversations with some friends, and started a hot sauce subscription service. I did pretty well. I ended up selling it after a year or so, which is pretty decent actually for a first year in business. But then what came shortly afterwards, and after a few of the things that I'd learned trying to get the hot sauce subscription off the ground, I started looking at what people were really sharing online, what people were responding to, the kind of content, the kind of videos, the kind of themes and topics, and why people shared. I started kind of getting obsessed with this. I knew nothing about marketing at this stage, so I was going completely from the ground up. But what I started to find was channels like BuzzFeed, channels like, love them or hate them, channels like BuzzFeed, channel like Goldcast. A lot of these big viral pages followed similar formats and followed similar ways of doing things. So I essentially started looking for what was trending on these platforms and combined them together. So what was trending at the time in terms of food, because we wanted to do a food product, was grilled cheese, was unusual combinations, and subscription boxes. So we decided to combine all three and make a grilled cheese sandwich subscription box as you would. So we did so, and we kind of thought, based on the mathematical side of it, if these three things are trending, if we combine them, something good's going to happen. And it did. Well, it went way better than we expected. Like literally the next day, we've been featured in a tabloid newspaper. Within a few weeks, we were. I was personally getting interviewed on BBC Radio, all over the country, all over different regional channels with BBC Radio. Within another week or so after that, we were in global press. It was crazy, just completely blew up. We managed to kind of strike this vein of gold, and yeah, we generated over $500,000 literally posting people grilled cheese in the mail.
I know, that story just blows my mind. I remember when you were telling me, I'm like, what the heck? Who is going to want to purchase a grilled cheese sandwich and have it posted to them and get it in, 3 or 4 days' time? Like, that just seemed so crazy to me. But obviously, there was some very specific things that you did with that. And I think it all started back, like you were talking about, had no experience in this industry whatsoever, but it started with the research and actually researching what's working well. What do I want to do? I've got this idea, research it. What I loved is the fact that you found like not just one thing that was working, but you went and you looked at multiple different things. And then it was this thought process of how do I combine all of that together to make something else that is really unique. And so talk to us about, those three things. So tell us more about the three things that you identified. So you knew that there was like a hot product. The thing that was trending was grilled cheese. And what was it? Talk us through the other two things and how did you even think to combine those three things together and give that a go?
Yeah, so and this definitely bears relevance to what we do today as well, because we've kind of taken these concepts, and whenever we're making ads with Grip and whenever we're launching new product ideas or working on affiliate promotions or anything like that whatsoever, then we're always taking into consideration this stuff which I thought of early on. So but to kind of take it back to kind of bare basics, because this process can be applied to almost anything, and in fact, if you look at a lot of things that get notoriety or that go viral, quite often they are a combination of multiple ideas. So that is like a real key core element of virality. And we're not talking cat videos, but stuff that really gets shared and that really is remarkable, as in worth remarking upon. So it's a combination of multiple trends. And the trick is that people are already talking about these things, right? So you've kind of got each individual thing's got power. So we have melted cheese that's getting shared like crazy. We've got unusual combinations. So in terms of the food channels and in terms of all sorts of things at this particular point in time in 2015, 2016, that weird combinations, like odd stuff that you wouldn't expect to go together, like chili, chocolate, that kind of stuff. Just crazy sort of variety of things combined. And also subscription boxes. There are people like Dollar Shave Club. They just IPO'd for, or in fact, I think they either IPO'd or they sold for $1 billion within like a few years of just being started up. So we knew that press publications, which are the most important kind of audience for us at the time, were really keen on these subscription boxes. So we knew that they were getting a lot of press, a lot of coverage. We knew that people, melted cheese always draws people's eye. You've kind of got no choice, right? It's like a primal instinct that you see something. We used to refer to it as protein in motion. It's like cheese melting. You can't like bear but kind of to actually look at it. And then the unusual combinations, because it's worth remarking on it. And again, this is another key element of virality and getting conversation and getting engagement, is that it polarizes opinion. We can all think of things in the press right now that are polarizing opinion, right? And how powerful that is. So these kind of things really start conversations. So if one person has a very strong opinion about they do like chili and chocolate, for example, and another person has a really strong opinion that they think it's the worst thing they could possibly imagine, then those two people are going to start talking. And what that's going to do, particularly on platforms like Facebook, which is a very conversational platform, it's going to drive engagement up. It's going to tell Facebook, hey, this content's relevant, so we can show it to more people. And when you start running ad spend behind that as well, you're going to show it to more people. They're going to charge you less for it because they see that it's more relevant, that people are enjoying seeing it, and therefore they're not taxing you for using the platform as much. So there's so many different advantages to these things, but basically it all comes down to looking at what people are already talking about. It's true when you in any real good marketing campaign is looking at where your audience is already at, where their heads are, what they're talking about, how you can draw bridges between what they currently know and are talking about and your product, your service, what you're trying to promote. and then combining those things together because they've all got power already. We've got the power of the melted cheese, with the power of the unusual combinations, and we've got the power of the subscription boxes, which the press are talking about. Combine all those things together, and it just blows up in terms of conversation. And that's precisely what happened, and way more than we ever could have imagined.
Yeah, well, and like to do $500,000 in sales for
Yeah,
for a grilled
a
cheese
$5
sandwich
product.
in a flaming box just does, it's like does your head in. But
Yeah.
amazing, and congratulations on that success, because that then started the snowball effect, right? Didn't it? With in terms of like where to next for Dave Rotheroe and the grip marketing team, like what it was that you guys then have done thereafter, because that really set the scene for everything that you are doing now. And like you were saying, that there's certain let's call it like components that make up a really, not just a good advertising campaign, but a great advertising campaign. And I want to talk about what are those components and kind of how would somebody create that. But before we get to that, let's talk first about, I want to define a couple of things. So the headline of this particular show is how to create high ticket generating ad campaigns. So let's define for everybody what we mean by high ticket, because a grilled cheese sandwich, being $5, would you consider that high ticket? Most wouldn't. So let's define that for everybody first, and then let's talk about who is this process for, like who can use this. Is it for everybody, or is it just for a certain type of certain segment of the market?
Yeah, for sure. So the grilled cheese thing was definitely like the very beginning of my journey in business. So it's always worth talking about. But where I've kind of come from there personally, where Grips actually develops, is very much in the high ticket space. That the reason for that is, shortly after the grilled cheese thing, then I actually wound up going and working for Frank Kern for around about a year, helping him as a lead media buyer. To actually set up his agency and start rolling out his particular method. Some people on here might have heard of already, called IBB, intent-based branding. So we're building out a very specific structure of ads, with a very specific structure of retargeting. But I decided to there were a few clients in there which I just kind of had some ideas about taking these principles from the grilled cheese thing and the virality and applying these principles. And I kind of took it upon myself. Like, I was by no means employed as a video editor or a copywriter or anything like that. I was strictly a media buyer at the time, but I took it upon myself to make a few ads following these principles, okay them with the client, and then get them running. And sure enough, the first time I did this, just taking these principles of virality and turning it into a very simple ad that took me no longer than an afternoon. It's about four hours to make from start to finish. Launched this thing and took his cost per book call from $150 down to $15 literally overnight. So that just kind of showed the potential for this kind of thing when applied to higher ticket, when applied to different styles of businesses that had a lot more leverage. So the grilled cheese product was a $5 product, so there wasn't much leverage. Whereas now, taking these principles and applying them to something where there was a lot more leverage, then suddenly a whole new world of opportunity opened up. So it's from that point forward that really I started taking these principles and applying them to lots of different businesses. Started, acquiring clients. Started setting up, training other people how to do the same thing, how to run ads, particularly on Facebook. And then from that point forward, started building it into Grip as it is today. Grip at the moment, we focus very heavily on YouTube because we found a real sweet spot in terms of the viewership right now, the amount of actual people on the platform versus the amount of advertisers. So as anyone who's advertising on Facebook right now, especially over the last few weeks, would have been experiencing, then it's getting pretty hectic over there. And also, there's so much competition. This, just to preface this, is not me, saying abandon Facebook right now, but like, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of things going on with Facebook. There's people getting accounts shut down and all sorts of things. And it's kind of understandable because they've got such a big job on their hands, right? But what we're seeing over on YouTube is a really sweet spot of viewership versus advertisers. That means there's lots of views, not so many advertisers, which means that you can get some incredibly good results if you follow some specific frameworks and layer over the creativity and the viral elements that we've been speaking about, or we've kind of touched on so far.
Beautiful. Well, and obviously this, YouTube is a place that anybody can advertise. So this type of system and process that you've got down pat now would be suitable for any type of business, right? So whether you're particularly for coaches, consultants, anybody that's got a high ticket product, but equally for somebody who had, say, a bricks and mortar store that had a high ticket product such as a bike or a scooter or something like that that would work as equally as well.
Absolutely, yeah. If you've got a product that people want or that can help people, then YouTube will work absolute wonders for you. So the beauty of YouTube is that you've got high intent, so you've got search intent. People are actually actively looking for solutions. So if you've got decent search volume for whatever it is that you do, then you can meet those people where they are actively looking for a solution. So whereas with Facebook, then you get a lot more reach in terms of like just being able to go very broad and then catch people with the right message. With Facebook, you can get hyper targeted in terms of answering people's questions and then follow the specific structure to call them out in the first 5 to 10 seconds of your video, and then take them through a very specific framework of demonstrating your credibility, demonstrating that you can help them, and then getting them through to whether it be your lead opt-in page, whether it be your webinar. Webinars work particularly well with YouTube, and that's where we typically work with clients who have webinars, because the difference again between YouTube traffic and Facebook traffic is, so the average, this isn't a direct like-for-like comparison, but the average video view on Facebook is 10 seconds, whereas the average session duration on YouTube is 40 minutes. So people are sat down and in the mode to actually sit and view. And therefore, if you've got a webinar, which is an hour long, might be a little bit difficult nowadays to get people on Facebook to watch that. Whereas with YouTube, they're clicking through and they're already in that viewing mode to sit down and watch. So you've got longer to build your credibility, your authority, put across that sales message, and turn them into a high ticket customer.
Beautiful. And obviously from the perspective of YouTube and it being, highly searchable. So people are on there, like you were saying, they're in the moment, they're ready to sit down and actually watch something. Usually you've got an idea in your mind of something that you are searching for. How in terms of like keywords and headlines, like is there a specific structure that you would recommend people use to get their headline right, or some way that they can search what is trending really well? What are the questions that people are actually asking? Are there any tools that you would recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is always Google keyword research tool, which is a native Google tool, which you can go in and take a look at. There's also you can also view trends on Google over time as well. But typically what we'll do is we'll go in and actually, because YouTube is a slightly different search engine. It's the second biggest search engine on the web, but it's slightly different to Google, so it operates slightly differently. So what we typically do is a combination of keyword research using native tools, using third-party tools, and also actually going into YouTube and taking a look at the videos that are currently doing really well in those particular spaces. So again, we're getting inside of the head of the customer, exactly where they are. And if we start to search for something which, you start with assumptions and then you build that from there. So we start with an assumption of, say, for example, I'm looking for people who are potentially interested in viral marketing. Then I would type in how to create viral ads. And then first of all, what you're going to see is as you're typing that up, then YouTube's going to start suggesting things for you. It's going to suggest similar terms. So that's going to give you an idea of what's already trending, what's already doing well, because YouTube bases those suggestions on what other people have searched. And then also when you actually click through, so you actually pick one of those terms and click through to it, then you're going to see the top videos ranked in order of popularity and also other things and ratings, but basically the best performing videos that YouTube has ranked based on how people have interacted with them. So you're going to get an idea of what is already working well organically, and that can inform your content decisions. But from that point forward, it's kind of slightly different with YouTube as opposed to with Facebook, because with Facebook, again, typically with Facebook, we'll frame our ads into a square frame so that we take up more room on the feed, and we'll put a graphic headline over the top as well, so we'll capture more attention. It's just, I'm sure people have seen this kind of thing, like a really intrigue-based graphic headline across the top, and that works wonders to capture more attention, because Facebook is more of a kind of interruption platform where people are scrolling through, and you need to catch their attention. You need to stop the scroll. Whereas with YouTube, the absolutely paramount thing to do is to prevent them from click and skip. So really what you want to concentrate on there is the first 5 to 10 seconds of the video itself. So the way we do this and the way we maximize our chances of success with YouTube is to split test 3 to 6 out the gate, 3 to 6 different hooks on the front of each individual ad. So we use the same ad, the same core section of the ad and the same call to action, but then we'll have 3 to 6 different hooks that we'll test on the front, giving us 3 to 6 different, slightly different videos. And you'd be absolutely blown away by the difference that this makes. I mean, you can literally see double, triple, or even greater profitability from ads just based on that first 5 to 10 seconds. So we always write our scripts with that in mind. We always write modular scripts. So we have like all those different hooks and split tests to go out the gate, and that maximizes our chances of success.
So I know that you talk a lot about this, the shifts, that the 2 millimeter shifts that you can make that actually double, triple, or sometimes even, give you greater return on investment through some of the things that you're doing. Can you just elaborate on what are some of those subtle things that you can do that make a big difference? So split testing, what are some of the other things that you would recommend people do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll talk about YouTube and Facebook because, I mean, just to clarify, we spent millions and millions of dollars on Facebook as well. So there's definitely valuable things to touch on in there. So the graphic headlines are a huge one on Facebook. So split testing those different graphic headlines. Again, you want like two or three. We usually coach people to do, and when we launch new clients out, to do 3 different graphic headlines with the same video. So you have the same video ad, but you just got 3 different versions of the headline across the top. So it'd be something, maybe 5 to 7 words max, so that people can read it without having to stop and really kind of take too much effort. You capture them in that very kind of flippant mindset. So 5 to 7 words, and something which is really interesting. And the purpose is not to sell the product. The purpose is to actually get them to stop and watch that video. So rather than saying that headline saying, "Hey, buy our stuff," it's going to be something along the lines of chiropractors need to hear this, or why don't more chiropractors hear this, know this, something along those lines, something that's going to absolutely cause people to stop and carry on watching the video. So we lined 3 different versions up in the ad set of literally the identical video with the different headlines, and again, you can find massive success in just a slight difference there. Also, thumbnails on Facebook videos, before we move on to YouTube, you'd be absolutely blown away the difference the thumbnails make. So a thumbnail for a video is only seen when people either don't have their autoplay switched on, or if they don't have a sufficient Wi-Fi connection, or they're out on 4G, they don't have the right connection, then Facebook will just show the thumbnail with the play button instead, and they can choose to play it just to save their bandwidth. So they're the only 2 instances that people would actually see it and actually have to press play. But with or they'd also see it, they were scrolling past and just get like a kind of flick of it before the video starts playing. So you'd think it wouldn't be too profound, but we've literally seen, especially back when we were doing the grilled cheese stuff, we could see like double the profitability from an ad which had a grilled cheese image versus like a mailbox image. So that's a huge thing, which, when you get to scale, especially split testing those things at the very, very first fraction of a second of the ad, that's the 2 millimeter shifts that I refer to, and it's on both platforms as well. So the reason I kind of framed it out like that is because if you think about your marketing funnel, then a lot of people kind of stop. A lot of people start at the sales page, and that they consider that their marketing funnel is the sales page, Whereas in reality, the ad is actually the very top of the marketing funnel, right? So, and the broader that you can get that net at the very top, then it makes sense that the more people you get into your ad to watch your ad, the more people you get into your funnel, the more people you get to watch your webinar or convert your sales page, then it all filters down and you essentially end up with more sales. So the broader you can catch that net, the more people you can actually get to stop and watch, whether that be to stop scrolling and start watching a video on Facebook, or whether it's to be not to press skip on YouTube. The broader you can get that, then that's a 2 millimeter shift that can potentially double or triple your profitability. And that's why, because you get so many more people in at that point.
Brilliant. So in terms of like, you're talking about, creating multiple graphics, so 3 to 5 graphics, and then creating the headlines. Is there a particular, you're also talking about the different types of headlines that you can create. Do you predominantly do like a who, what, where, why, how kind of scenario with the headlines, or to create some sort of, fear of missing out or intrigue? Or is there a set type, like with those 3 to 5, is there a set type of headline that you would generally create?
We don't narrow it down that much. Like, so I guess like anyone who writes them on our team has like a really strong copywriting background anyway. And we have actually, so we have a project management software where we just, every time somebody sees a really good headline, then they put it in there in our list. So we've kind of got like a cheat sheet to scan through and take a look for good stuff, you know. And there's a lot of stuff that we take, even, you know, like frameworks, like the one which I mentioned earlier on, which was why don't all chiropractors know this? That's actually like a really famous old Eugene Schwartz headline framework from like the, I don't know, maybe the 1930s, 1940s, something like that. So yeah, there's a lot of that. It's basically it's got to create intrigue. It's got to be, so it's usually something along the lines of you need to hear this, or what's in this video is going to be very beneficial to you. You know, it's that kind of idea that we're trying to portray.
And I love that. I mean, there are definitely clues in, you know, history. So if you go back and have a look at, you know, what's worked really well in the past, and maybe just take that and use that 2 millimeter shift and reframe it to your own business, then you usually have got something really successful right there. So what about so you're talking, I want to talk a little bit deeper about the components of these ads, because I've seen some of your of these viral videos that you create, and I know that there's like this framework, you know, without giving away the baby with the bathwater, so to speak, because, you know, guys, you're going to want to go and check out Dave, and, you know, there's a lot more to this, and he's going to try and give you as much as we can in the time that we've got, but there's a lot to this, and you can utilize his team at Grip to help you, you know, create all of the things that you need without you necessarily having to do it. But the components, when you put the components of virality into a video, what are some of the things that we need to consider? So if somebody doesn't have the budget to hire your team, how could they potentially create some of the stuff themselves using some of the, you know, the tools and resources that they might have at hand?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it all starts with an idea. Whenever we start brainstorming a new ad, then it starts with that like big marketing idea. Like, what do you need the audience to believe to be true in order for them to take the action that you want them to take? So whether it be to make a purchase, whether it be to opt in, whether it be to whatever else. So we kind of start there and then work back. It's like, what do we need the audience's state of mind to be, and then work back from there. And then in terms of structuring out the ad, then there's always the hook, the pattern interrupt first, which is going to knock people out of their pattern. And this is a huge one. So actually, this actually interacts with people's kind of lizard brain, right? To grab their attention in a way which they're not entirely conscious of. So it's kind of like it grabs your attention before you kind of realize that you've had your attention grabbed, if that makes sense. So the reason this works so well is down to a kind of primordial instinct in our brains. It's called the reticular activating system. So this is a part of our brain which is designed to knock our conscious brain back into conscious attention when we see something which is unusual, out of the ordinary, or a potential threat. So obviously this was developed in our brains as a way to keep us out of danger, as a way to alert us to something unusual, because naturally, to keep us sane, our brains just go into patterns. They just go into, you know, I'm sure everybody's had that experience. They arrive at the office and they don't even remember getting out of bed, let alone getting in the car. But you suddenly wake up and you're like, oh yeah, because you've gone into an unconscious pattern that you're so used to doing every single day that your body's set a kind of program for it, and you've forgotten about it. So it's just the same when you scroll through Facebook. You're about 7.5 miles through your feed and you don't even remember opening the phone. So in those situations, you've got to knock people out of their pattern. You've got to use a pattern interrupt. And the way to do that, if you want to be really effective, is to show them something which is unusual, show them something which is out of the ordinary. So rather than being something which is, you know, particularly unpleasant or anything like that, then it's just something which defies what their brain would expect to see. So you're talking to people's subconscious brain at this point. So stuff that works really well is stuff that, you like, to give you a few really sparse examples, a heavy weighted object floating up, because it defies what our brains would expect to see of a heavy object, right? So that's an example of a pattern interrupt. Another really good one is, did you see that documentary on Fire Festival a few years ago? The kids who tried to do a music festival in the States, and it completely like went out of hand, and they blew millions of dollars, and it all went very wrong.
No.
Did you see it? No, it's a really good watch. It's a fascinating watch, because it's basically it documents their entire process of setting up this festival, and it was a festival for rich kids, and it all went spectacularly wrong. But one thing that they got very right was the marketing, the actual advertising, the influencer advertising as well. And in fact, that blew them up so that it was so insanely successful they could never actually deliver on their promises, and it ended up being a complete disaster. But what they got really right was the marketing, and one particular part of that was a campaign on Instagram that they got a bunch of influencers to post an orange tile. So thousands of influencers were posting this orange tile on Instagram one day, and everybody sees, like, you know, they're used to seeing bikini models and Lamborghinis and whatever else you see on Instagram, and suddenly there's these, like, it's a flat tile icon. So it's unusual. It knocks people out of what they're expecting to see. So that is another perfect example of a pattern interrupt. But really, with that, I could talk about pattern interrupt for the next 6 weeks straight. But like the main thing is showing people something unusual, which is going to knock them out of the pattern, which is going to grab their attention. And again, that's just opening that net broader and broader so that you can get more people in there. The next section is going to be the hook. So again, we split test different ideas, but that's where you really pose that question, or, you know, open a loop and you know, grab people's attention and get them to commit to watching the rest of the video, which is a really crucial thing to do. It's, again, this falls into this first few seconds of the ad that's really going to make the difference and shake down to have more, you know, land more people in your funnel at the end of the day. And then really, just to give you one more example of one of the components that we use very regularly at Grip, it's visual metaphor. So it's using, again, bridges between what people do, what people know already, and what you're trying to get across to them. Because, you know, often this is a really great way to inject humor and to, again, like, combine trends, combine things that people are talking about, and it elevates your reach and your ad performance absolutely no end whatsoever. So, I mean, one example of this was so we did an ad recently for an SEO company. So basically, they're an SEO keyword research tool, kind of like we were talking about before. We combined Finding Neo with the Matrix to do finding. Oh, hang on, finding. It's definitely late now, isn't it? Starting to lose my mind.
You're talking about Finding the fish, Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo with the Matrix to make Finding Neo. So we kind of did this mishmash, and where Neo the fish was lost and his customers couldn't find him, and then Morpheus came and told him that you know, that basically you had to go and visit the keyword maker. So we kind of got that reference in there as well. And it's just kind of like a fun way to make all these references and bridge people over. It probably makes that ad makes no sense now. I'm trying to explain it to you, but I'll post a link to it in the group afterwards so people can see. But yeah, like, using these metaphors so that you can bridge, especially with complex ideas, like bridge what it is you do over to what people already know. It's a super powerful way of converting people.
Love that, and super creative too. So for those of you that are, you know, a little creative like we are with the Metadime team, we love doing that sort of stuff. So let's talk about, because one of the questions that everybody always asks is, like, would you use this for? I've got 3 questions actually that I get asked often about all this sort of stuff. Is, would you use this process if you were launching a brand new product?
Okay, that's interesting. So I'm going to counterintuitively say that if you're launching a brand new product, a lot of media buyers say, yeah, absolutely, sign up with us and we'll run your ads. But so we won't take on a client until they've got some kind of proof of concept, and, you know, they've proven out at least to a list or a partner list. They've done some kind of affiliate launch, or they've ideally got their own internal list that they can launch to. Just because, really, you know, when it comes to running ads, then you need to. Ads amplify things, right? So good ads, a big misconception that people have is they can hire a media buying team and suddenly all their problems go away and they'll have endless customers. But really, ads amplify things, and I'm very upfront and honest about that with people. So when you've got a product that already works great, then yeah, you can add the right ad on the front end of it can completely blow it up, but it's never going to fix a product that doesn't convert.
So if you were somebody who was new, and we're using that kind of scenario of, you know, I've got a new product, I'm wanting to prove my proof of concept and make sure that, you know, I've got some validation happening here. What would you recommend they do first before somebody starts throwing a whole lot of money at ads?
Yeah, so reach out. Yeah, absolutely. So reach out to partners first. You know, find other people in the industry that might have lists that you could launch to, and incentivize them with affiliate commissions. So say, you know, for every person that signs up through your link, then we'll give you 50% of the sale, 20% of the sale, whatever kind of deal that you come to. That's a great way of doing it. Also, if you do want to go straight for paid traffic, like sometimes people just have more money than time and they want to actually just get some traffic and see if something works, then yeah, running a traffic campaign to see on I very rarely advise to run a traffic campaign. We won't go into details exactly why, but running a traffic campaign on Facebook just to get an indication of clicks to find out if people are actually responsive to the ad itself. So those would be the main things. But I'm always very cautious with ad spend when it's brand new product. Like you do want to make sure that you exhaust all of your organic channels before you start paying for ads.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. Because I've seen that happen way too many times where people want to spend all their money on, paid advertising and they haven't done anything from an organic point of view first. And like I said, they exhaust everything and then figure out that, hey, this doesn't work, when in fact it could work if they had done things in the right order. So super important. So let's just say, for example, you've got something that has been validated. They've got a list. They've done some stuff themselves. They've created an audience. Now they want to do some advertising. How much should they spend as on the first kind of run out with some ads? What would you recommend they would spend?
Yeah, for sure. So because there's such a broad diversity of different products that we could be talking about, I'll just try and put some kind of boundaries around it. So typically we look to spend about 3 times the target CPA of a product in the first like daily in the first iteration if it's a low ticket product. So if it's say somewhere in the region of like 47 and 197, for example, then you want to spend around about 3 times the CPA, whatever that would be. So say you wanted to acquire, for example, for $50 per customer, you want to be spending $150 per day. Now with YouTube, it's a slightly different beast because really you need to get that traction. And what we find with YouTube is that it's more of a kind of on month 1 you're looking to break even on your ad spend. On month 2 you're really looking to start to scale forward fast, and then by month 3 that's when you find that huge scalability. But the beauty of YouTube is that when you do find that scalability, then it's a lot more scalable and it's a lot more sustainable as well. Whereas with Facebook, it'll drop off quite a bit. So with YouTube, you want to be dedicating at least $100 per day, and you want to be in it for the long run. You want to make sure that you're committing yourself to 3 months so that you can really go through those learning phases, allow YouTube, Google to actually learn as well on your behalf as well.
Mm-hmm. Allow the algorithms to learn, what's going on and who's who's clicking and interested in what it is that you've got to offer, so that they can then share that to more people who are similar to those that were interested. So
that's right.
That's great. So I love the fact that yes, there's some parameters, and yes, it's not it's not a cookie cutter approach for everybody, but that gives some really good guidelines in terms of 3 times CPA. So what about in terms of like I know you've had this ROAS on your Facebook page, and I now get that your mobile phone actually starts to change, the things that you are typing in there to ROAS. So return on I saw that. I've been watching. So let's talk about return on ad spend. Like, what should you expect to get back? And yes, we know that it's different for everybody. But again, we'll put some parameters around it and kind of get a few benchmarks that people can start to measure themselves against.
Yeah, for sure. So just to follow on from your from the last point as well, very briefly, because there's some important information there as well. It goes without saying that if you're profitable, then you're going to want to scale forward as fast as possible, right? So on either platform, you want to look at around about, if you're media buying it in a kind of tentative way, starting at a low ad spend, like less than $100 per day, and you want to move forward about 20% increase per day, no more than that. You'll hear lots of different opinions on that, especially with the high level media buyers who are spending $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 per day. When you get to those scales, then it's a very different beast. But if you are starting from scratch, then that's where you want to be expected to move. Now, with Facebook in particular, then really the most important thing to do is take a look at the metrics, the early indicator metrics. So that's going to give you a really good idea of how profitable your campaign is going to be later on. So, for example, with Facebook, you want to make sure that on a conversion campaign for purchase, you get at least a 1.5% unique outbound click-through rate. That's really worth writing down because it's a great metric. 1.5% unique outbound click-through rate on your ad. So that indicates that you've got a good ad. If it's less than that, then you've got a bad ad. You need to go back and fix the ad, and then you can kind of shake down to the funnel and work out, you know, where things are working and where things need improvement. But from that point forward, then you do want to scale on profitability, and that's really what you're looking for off the bat. Having said that, I've forgotten what the third question was. Do you mind?
Well, the third question, I've probably forgotten what that third question was too. But I think we were talking about, like, what can you expect in terms of return on ad spend?
ROAS. Mm-hmm. Yes, right, got you. Yeah, so really on it. If we're talking about high ticket, we're talking about high ticket for the time being, because that's kind of most relevant to the conversation, I guess. So on Facebook, you'd be happy if you were scaling to a 2-to-1 ROAS. So $2 in for every $1 spent. Right now, if you're scaling hard to that kind of level, it's not unusual to see 3 or 4 ROAS. On YouTube, then you can see significantly more than that, especially right now. So long as your sales process is in place and you've got a decent price product, then it's not unusual to see 5, 10, or even greater ROAS, even within the first month or so.
Beautiful. So what about some of the other, I mean, we've talked a lot about Facebook and YouTube. There's a whole myriad of other platforms that are, I suppose, a lot of people think are hot right now. Have you had any experience in, like, ads on LinkedIn or even TikTok right now? Either of those sort of or anywhere else that you think is worth spending a bit of time and effort to get some ads running on?
Yeah, so TikTok, much like Snapchat, has got its benefits for particular niches or niches. So I don't personally have any experience in either of these platforms, but I know from other peers in the industry. So they're very good for e-com and that kind of stuff. And, it's a certain type of audience that uses those platforms. Snapchat never got the adoption by an older marketplace, really, never got mass adoption by an older marketplace. TikTok, you never know, it could do, although, again, there's a lot of political stuff that's influencing that, and, where it sits particularly in the States, which makes a big swing for these kind of platforms when they're in a growth stage, and therefore, whether or not they'll be effective marketers. TikTok keep an eye out, giving away thousands of dollars worth of free advertising in an effort to get people on board right now. So if you are selling a product that would be relevant to those kind of audiences, then might definitely be worth a look. But one thing that I can give you a real world experience on, which we've done quite a bit of, is LinkedIn advertising. Now, LinkedIn advertising the advantages are that you can get very specific with who it is you're going after. So you can narrow down people by particular job role, particular industry area, etc. Those kind of stuff. Job role being the biggest one. So you know that you're going after a marketing manager, or if you know that you're going after CEOs, for example, then you can specifically dictate that within the campaign. Now, LinkedIn will charge you a premium to do so because they're a very, very expensive platform to advertise on. However, if you do want to use a cheeky little hack that we do from time to time when we are doing more B2B level stuff, if you run a campaign on LinkedIn, which is just designed to get people over to a landing page where you've got your Facebook pixel installed and you've got a particular audience set up for that URL. So say, for example, the URL is /LinkedIn leads, and then you build a custom audience of people who hit that page, then you know that you've got a targeted audience that you can follow up on Facebook with people that you've very accurately defined on LinkedIn. So that's a really great little hack to build that audience, and that audience is good for a long time once you've got it.
Perfect. I love that. I mean, that obviously gives you, an opportunity to get to reach those people at a much lower cost, given the cost differentiation between LinkedIn and a Facebook. So we've covered like a lot of ground today, and I know that you've got some places that people can go to do, to have more of a conversation with you. I know that you did have at one point an ebook that was available. Is that still available? And if so, would you like to make it available to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So read this if you want to go viral, which I believe I've got a copy of conveniently right here. So you can grab an ebook and audiobook copy of this by going to getviralbook.com, so GET viralbook.com. And that basically summarizes everything I learned in those first crucial days of setting up the subscription boxes, and how we actually now apply it into all sorts of businesses and all sorts of niches, and how you can use it to do the exact same thing in your business as well. So you can grab the digital, the ebook and the audiobook version at getviralbook.com. Yeah, that's right. That's the one.
I'm right there. All right, so guys, so
Beautiful.
I've just popped that up on the screen for you. So go and get a copy of that book, because a lot of what Dave's spoken about today is going to be outlined in that book, and you'll be able to come back and rewatch the interview today with Dave, and then also obviously take action on the stuff that you read inside of his book. The other place that you can go to connect with Dave is right on over here. So you can go and hunt him down on Facebook. Oops, not that one. Sorry, this one here. Here we go. That
There it
one's
is.
better. So there you go. You can go and hunt Dave down at Big Dave Rotheroe, and connect with Dave over on his Facebook page, because I know he posts a lot of stuff there too that will be very useful. And if they want to utilize you and your team, where can they go, Dave?
Yeah, for sure. So just head over to gripadvertising.com and you can see a bunch of examples of our work and get in touch with us as well. We can have a chat.
gripadvertising.com coming your way. So you just want to head on over here, guys. Let me make sure I put the right one up. So you can go to gripadvertising.com and connect with Dave and his team. So before we dial out, I just want to make sure that we've covered everything. Is there anything else that is still in that vault of yours that you would absolutely love to share with the audience, that is going to help them to create amazing viral videos that are going to sell millions and millions of their stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So, well, you know what? I think if like on the spot, I think the thing that I would encourage people to do is just like get creative and get excited about the process of marketing and advertising, because it's so easy, especially when your head's in your business 24/7, to forget how excited you were when you started doing what you do, and the reasons that you do it. So it's really worth trying to get back into that state of when you started in your niche or whatever it is you do, why you got excited about it, because really, you can portray that over to the people that you're trying to convert, and you can get them as excited as you were when you first came across what it was that you do. Then you got a really good chance of being able to imprint that excitement into the marketing, the advertising that you do. It's amazing how when you get yourself into a state like that, suddenly your brain starts popping ideas out, and doing things that you never would have been able to do consciously, by kind of forcing it. So go take a walk in the woods. Like I've got a whole lake area out here that I go walk around, and it's amazing. You set an intention in your mind that you want to attract the right kind of people, and get them as excited as you are about your product, and then go for a quick stroll. It's amazing what your brain starts to pop out.
That's fantastic. It's interesting that you should say that, because we were talking about that in our team meeting this morning, actually, like the having an intention, but also the resonance of what it is that you're trying to do, and just getting that feeling injected into your advertising, into the words that are that you are speaking, the words that you are writing, the imagery, and everything else that you create from for your business. So super important. Look, I know that it's nearly 1 a.m. for you, so I am going to be I'm going to allow you to have some sleep and be able to get up and be really, really creative in the morning. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on the Unlock Show today, and being so generous in the information that you've provided to everybody who's watched. And like I said, this will be available in the podcast version, and also as a recording inside of the Success Secrets for Business, Family and Life group on Facebook. So if you kind of caught part of this and you'd really like to go back and rewatch the whole thing, then I would highly recommend that you join the group Success Secrets for Business, Family and Life, and we'll make sure that you are able to watch the replay, because some of the stuff that Dave shared today is it can be life altering and business changing. So there's a huge amount of stuff that he's given you today that can really make a big difference to you, your family, and your business. So thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, you can go and check Dave out on Facebook. Go and find him at Big Dave Rotheroe, and then also gripadvertising.com is where you need to go if you would like to work with Dave and his team. And you can go and get getviralbook.com is where you can get your hands on that amazing book that Dave has written. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you everybody for watching and tuning in to the Unlock Show today. I'm Tracy Wilson. I'll be back again on Friday with another episode of Unlocked, and you just don't know where I'm going to be. Sometimes, I'm in the middle of nowhere camping with my family. Other times I'm in the studio. So, you'll have to tune in to find out where the heck is Tracy Wilson. It'll be a little bit like, where's Wally? But anyway.
You can't have a moving target, right?
Yeah, that's it. So tune in again on Friday, and I'll love to see you guys back here again. Thanks so much, Dave, and we will see you guys again on Friday. Have an amazing rest of the week.
Thanks,
Bye,
Tracy.
everybody.
Cheers, guys.